Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the world's most devastating and overlooked wars, the ongoing conflict in Sudan. The power struggle between the Sudanese Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, has left the country in ruins, millions displaced, and the world watching in silence. This is not just a fight for territory, it's a war for survival, power, and the future of an entire nation. It all began in April 2023, when long-simmering tensions between Sudan's two most powerful military leaders erupted into full-scale war. On one side stands General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, head of the Sudanese Armed Forces. On the other is Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, widely known as Hemedti, commander of the RSF, a powerful paramilitary force that once fought alongside the army but now wages a brutal war against it. The two men were once allies. Together, they orchestrated the 2021 coup that ended Sudan's fragile transition to democracy. But power, as always, became the dividing line. Disagreements over how to integrate the RSF into the regular army spiraled into open warfare, plunging Sudan into chaos. Within days, the capital city of Khartoum turned into a battleground. Fighter jets roared overhead, artillery shells pounded neighborhoods, and terrified civilians fled their homes. Hospitals, schools, and markets were reduced to rubble. What was once a bustling African capital quickly became a war zone. Both sides accuse each other of starting the conflict. The Sudanese army claims it is defending the state against an illegal militia. The RSF insists it's fighting for the people against military dictatorship. But on the ground, it's the civilians who are paying the price. The United Nations describes Sudan as one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. More than 10 million people have been forced to flee their homes, and thousands have been killed, though the real number is believed to be much higher. Across Khartoum, Omdurman, and Bari, entire districts have been destroyed. The RSF has seized large areas of the capital, using residential buildings as bases. Eyewitnesses report looting, abductions, and targeted killings. Meanwhile, the army has responded with heavy airstrikes, often hitting civilian areas in the process. The result, a city in ruins and a population trapped in fear. Outside Khartoum, the war has spread to other regions, including the troubled Darfur area. Darfur, already scarred by genocide 2 decades ago, is once again witnessing ethnic violence on a massive scale. Reports of massacres, mass graves, and sexual violence have shocked the international community. The RSF, largely made up of fighters from Darfur's Arab tribes, is accused of targeting non-Arab communities, reviving old wounds from the early 2000s. Internationally, the world's response has been slow and divided. The United Nations, African Union, and neighboring countries have repeatedly called for a ceasefire, but both sides continue to ignore peace talks. The United States and Saudi Arabia tried to mediate, hosting negotiations in Jeddah, but every agreement has collapsed within days. Each side believes it can still win militarily, a belief that only prolongs the suffering of millions. The humanitarian crisis in Sudan is staggering. Over half of the country's 50 million people now need urgent aid, food, medicine, and clean water. Entire towns have no functioning hospitals left. Aid convoys have been looted, and workers attacked. The UN warns that famine could soon grip parts of the country if fighting doesn't stop. For millions of Sudanese families, every day is a struggle to survive. Refugees have poured into neighboring countries like Chad, South Sudan, and Egypt, overwhelming border camps and aid agencies. Children are the most vulnerable, malnourished, traumatized, and often separated from their families. In many regions, internet and electricity are cut off, isolating communities from the outside world. Meanwhile, Sudan's economy has completely collapsed. Banks have shut down, the currency has lost its value, and trade routes are blocked. Farmers can't grow crops, factories can't operate, and ordinary citizens have no income. The once promising vision of a democratic Sudan, born after the ousting of longtime dictator Omar al-Bashir in 2019, now feels like a distant memory. International observers fear that the conflict could destabilize the entire Horn of Africa. Sudan borders 7 countries, and each could be drawn in if the war continues. Smuggling, arms trafficking, and refugee flows are already spilling across borders, threatening regional stability. There are growing concerns that foreign powers might be supporting different factions, fueling the conflict for their own interests. Gold, oil, and strategic influence are all at stake. For the people of Sudan, hope is fading. Families have been torn apart, cities destroyed, and communities displaced. Yet, despite the horrors, ordinary Sudanese citizens continued to show remarkable resilience, organizing local aid networks, caring for neighbors, and documenting atrocities to make sure the world does not forget them. But the truth is, much of the world has forgotten. With attention focused on other global crises, Ukraine, Gaza, and beyond, Sudan's war barely makes international headlines. The silence surrounding this tragedy is as painful as the war itself. Human rights groups and journalists have called on world leaders to act to pressure both sides to stop fighting, allow humanitarian aid, and return to political dialogue. As the conflict enters another brutal year, the question remains, how much longer can Sudan endure this nightmare? The longer this war continues, the harder it will be to rebuild the nation and the deeper the scars will run. For now, both the RSF and the Sudanese Army seem locked in a deadly stalemate. Each controls parts of the country, each claims legitimacy, and neither appears willing to compromise. The people trapped in the middle remain voiceless victims of a power struggle they never chose. The future of Sudan depends on whether its leaders and the world can find the courage to choose peace over power. Because if this war continues, it won't just destroy Sudan, it will haunt an entire generation. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on global conflicts and breaking news stories from around the world. Stay informed, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next report.